introduction. My name is Danelsy Medrano, and I lead brand media and experiential strategy for the Chase Freedom portfolio of products. And why don't we have you guys introduce yourselves as well?
Renee Doerre. I lead marketing for our ads business at Life 360.
Hi, everybody. I'm Niamh O'Leary. I lead revenue marketing at 6 Sense.
Jeremy Krall. I lead integrated marketing and innovation at Qualcomm.
Michael Lehman. I'm president of the Americas at Equativ.
Amazing. So yes, another AI panel. But for this one, I want to take us back about 10 years ago, as you know, Alexa and Siri came into our ecosystem. It was scary times, if I must add. I mean, we were training Alexa how to even understand our accents. I mean, Spanglish over here, so not a great experience. But fast forward 10 years, right? So here we are. Now we're talking about ChatGPT and Claude, you name it. But we're no longer asking, what's the weather? We're not asking, what should I eat for the day? Now we're asking questions as in, build me a $5 million marketing plan. Help me plan, my media strategy. So the stakes pretty much high and have changed drastically. So I'm very excited to be joined by this amazing panel to talk all things AI from an operational, strategic standpoint and just thinking from the ethical standpoint as well. So rapid fire, I want to start with Michael. So Michael, let's talk about the new reality some companies are implementing, including this mandate to build an AI-first organization. So what does that mean operationally?
For starters, so it's true, right? Like every executive team, every board is just announcing to their business, we have to do more AI, which is objectively a very annoying request, right? Because they just say, do more AI, and everybody's like, okay, but I don't know what to do. And in the board and executive team's defense, that's their job, right? Their job is to identify big market opportunities. Maybe there's a big market opportunity in Japan. Maybe there's a big market opportunity with programmatic advertising, and then the team needs to figure it out. So that's the deal with AI right now. AI is clearly massive. Executive teams are saying to their orgs, we need to do something with AI, but there's no blueprint, there's no precedent. So we're now in this moment where organizations need to figure it out. And I think to answer your question specifically, the first thing companies need to do is they need to define what AI is, the version of it they're looking to use. And one way, I think a simple way we've started to sort of segment the AI market is there's an operational use case for AI, right? How to make your company just work better. There's a product use case for AI, how do you use it as a competitive differentiator and make yourself stronger in market? And then there's just a market equilibrium around AI, right? If the AI market, if AI is changing the market, it's changing the media landscape, it's changing the publisher landscape, et cetera. How do you meet that market where it is? How do you build towards the future? So when those changes are realized, you have a competitive offering to compete there. So the ability, I think, to define it is critical. And then from there, organizations can develop their work streams and strategies.
Excellent. On that topic, Jeremy, let's talk a little bit about the efficiency targets at the executive level, but also about maintaining that human-led but AI-assisted work. How do you balance those two mandates?
Yeah, so I love the way you described it. So for us, it would be executives saying, just AI it, and setting arbitrary efficiency targets. So let's save 20% next year, without any real thought of what that means. So for us, as we rolled things out kind of 3 years ago, as we built any agent, we were very clear about defining what savings look like, whether it was from an efficiency gain, productivity gain, even kind of social awareness among the team. How are you feeling about the AI rollout, the skills and training that went along with that? And so it really was a holistic story and not just hitting an arbitrary efficiency target. And you need to be able to educate up with that. So it's not just about doing it kind of internally. You need to take that training back into that executive team so they have a better idea of how to handle it. To your end question, we really approached it from a human-led, AI-assisted, perspective. It was really another tool in the marketer's toolbox. So we've seen evolutions of tools all throughout the years. New pieces of technology roll in. We're treating it that way. It's not about a replacement. It's about reskilling and retraining and giving people more opportunity to kind of take some of those manual things out of your life and focus more on the strategic initiatives that you're focused on. But along the way, we have marketers who are builders now. They're building their own agents, right? They've found opportunity in this. And so that's been part of our whole rollout and message.
I love that. I think, there is a lot of anxiety these days as far as this chatbot's taking over our jobs, right? So this is beautifully like explained, right? It's another tool in the toolkit. So on that, so Niamh, we talked about, in your role in the revenue marketing team and, guys leverage AI to analyze performance and prospect identification. And there's this persistent fear that the AI will replace like strategic agency work. How do you see the role of human strategists evolving, and what does Sixth Sense bet on?
Yeah, so ridiculously similarly to how you think, I have a grid in my mind's eye, and that grid goes AI-led, AI-assisted, human-led, human-assisted. And we've got a mix, I think about it in terms of our team internally, how we approach things with our processes, also how we approach things with outsourced talent and support like agencies. There are certain things that are completely human-led and always will be. There are certain things that are assisted by AI. There are things that are AI-led. And so I think it's that real intentionality around what you're trying to achieve, where you're trying to create efficiencies, be they cost savings or be they process driven, and then measuring against those specific things. It's moving so fast that I think we're learning while we do, but the intentionality is incredibly important because, as we all know, it takes a really long time to build a brand, and it takes very little time at all to break it down. I think particularly on the B2B side, it's so important that we're cognizant of that, because I don't know how the rest of you feel, but for me as a consumer, when I'm spending my own money on a quick purchase, if I encounter bad acts of AI, I can kind of get over it. But when you're dealing with, on average, 10 people in a B2B buying enterprise decision that is going to define their career or their team's success, that is 6 or 7 figures, one bad act of AI can risk the entire deal and can hurt you across 10 people and then the multiple companies that those people will go to afterwards. So the stakes are really, really high. And I think AI mistakes can be really costly. And so that human blend with AI and the cleanliness of your data is of more importance the more embedded we get into AI and the further up market you're going in B2B deals.
I love that. Our jobs are saved. Okay, that's the one-liner. Renee, so let's talk about Life 360 ads. So you work directly with consumer data and targeting. As organizations run to adopt AI, what are you seeing as the biggest gaps in terms of how companies are thinking about the ethical guardrails and trust?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So obviously, there is a theme over the course of the last couple speakers here around human. And I think that's really something that we all need to remember, right? Is that everything we're doing is in service of people, whether it's people that work for us or whether it's people who are consuming what we're building. And the more effective we are at being able to manage, operate, gain trust, credibility, transparency for people, whether it's those working on behalf of the organization or those that we're trying to reach, the more effective we are in reaching our goals and the outcomes. So from a Life 360 perspective, like real people, real world, like real outcomes, that's everything that we are. And so we take a lot of pride and we take a lot of work in standing up like a privacy center, which we have today, which puts control in the hands of individuals that use our app and allows them to decide, what are you comfortable with? What does this look like for you? What does this look, like what is okay? What are the guardrails? From an internal perspective, we are an AI-led organization, and internally it's the same. We have people on our team that have agents that are connecting it to Slack, that are doing work behind the scenes, that are pulling reports while we sleep. And we have other people who are just learning the skill of chat from an AI perspective. So it's really figuring out and meeting, whomever you're trying to influence or impact at the place that they are right now, and then supporting them on that journey and being really clear about it.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of the challenges we have, myself included at work, is sort of speed to market, right? So when you work for highly scrutinized, institutions that you have to, legal and compliance are like in the middle of everything. I think every industry is a little bit different. But, to get to market, it requires so much. So yes, although AI can help you up to a certain point, you still need those checks and balances in between that are human led to be able to drive home and go live with some of these campaigns. So this is for all of you or whoever would like to take this one. So from your vantage point, is the competitive advantage right now in having the best AI tools or figuring out how to organize and govern them? Who want to take that?
I love this question. I don't think it's just in the tools. And I say that as a company that has AI tools embedded in what we offer our customers. But if it's just tools for tools' sake, what we were just talking about, that risk profile goes up because it's just random acts of AI. I still think it needs to be massively grounded in intentionality. And at the end of the day, the data that you're pumping into your AI is the most important thing, in my opinion. The data that you are asking your humans and your agents to work off of is going to be the thing that either makes you resonate massively with those that you're trying to target. I'm thinking about AI from an external use case perspective, or completely undermines you. So I would look at your data integrity massively. Obviously, that's something at Sixth Sense that we're really proud of because we've been in the business of it for 13 years. But I would look at that first, because whether it's humans or whether it's agents acting on top of it, that's going to make or break you and make or break that trust with your customers and your prospects.
Anybody else?
Sure. As someone who's been in tools for a long time, I can say that it's definitely not the tools first. That's always been a historical problem, right? So treating any new platform as like, we'll bring that in, it'll solve all the problems. That's what AI is right now. The idea that you could drop Claude on a basic marketer's desktop and say, just build stuff is insane, right? You need training to go along this. We have organizations that have been designed a certain way and running a certain way for X number of years. Those need to change now. The job titles we have, the skills people have need to change. And so along with these solutions that are changing constantly as well, you need to have training and programs that go along with that. And on that note, with the models changing, so we started in one place. We're also a Sixth Sense customer. But we started in one place, and that, in the course of 3 years, has evolved dramatically. We started with Writer. We became a heavy M365 Copilot customer. Anthropic is now inside. We've got multiple models exposed. We've got creative models now as well. All of that needs to be thought through, governed, deployed. That means more people, more training, more investment, and not less in all those areas. So.
Sure.
Yeah, and one thing I might add to your question about like the standards around AI is that I think there are a few bull cases for our industry around AI and like where it takes us. And one of them is this up-leveling of standards across the board for the industry. So we are, whatever we are, we're 20 years into digital advertising, 25, whatever it is. We're probably 10 solid years into the programmatic supply chain. And it is just like unbelievably frustrating the lack of insight we continue to have into why the supply chain and digital advertising behaves the way it does. Like why a bid request and a bid response meet each other and what an advertiser is actually targeting. And like our level of insight there remains really poor. Like we've sort of hit our wall, I think, as an industry. And the bull case for, I think, AI is that it can sort of up-level this standard across the board and just really improve the understanding and level of insight and ability for digital advertising to just perform and behave appropriately. And what that will lead to ideally is just like a real unlock around innovation. Companies can start to focus more on innovation, building new products, building interesting executions, building more analytics, building a future-looking version of, the industry as opposed to just these fundamentals that we continue to not be able to get right, which I think, obviously has made all of us a little squirrely at this point. So I think like we want to talk about AI from like a highly innovative and differentiated standpoint, but just improving the sort of standards of how the industry behaves, I think would be a huge step for us and lead to like a very interesting next few years for the industry.
Yeah, I was going to say curiosity, right? So I think one of the things that I've seen AI do, at least for myself, is organize or demonstrate to me a way of thinking about something differently, right? And then I can continue to think through it, ask it questions, have a conversation with it, and continue to poke at some of the things that can offer me a different view or lens than I carry into my day-to-day conversations, just because, we're all humans and we all have we all have biases. So I think that's one of those things I've noticed, and it will improve our standards, and it will drive greater innovation. It will solve some of these problems because as more people are asking questions and becoming curious and feeding the machine over time, we will start to be able to put the patterns together in a different way that will unlock some additional tools or innovation. I also think from a people perspective, in hiring, right, it's really elevated who you need to look for from a talent perspective. So you change the skills, the experiences, and the job requisition because of what now is potentially expected and how quickly something might be expected because of the way that AI is improving marketing.
When you said talent, I think it's such an important point, both for new talent and for existing. I fundamentally believe that we have a duty of care to our teams as leaders to ensure that they are as close to the bleeding edge as they possibly can be with AI usage in whatever those roles may be. When it comes to the junior talent on my team, the BDR teams are part of the revenue team at Sixth Sense. No one has adopted AI faster and with more ferocity than the BDRs. And it's one of the roles that I was originally more worried about because there's so much of it that you can automate. But to everybody's point about up-leveling, we're now seeing our recent grad BDRs be so empowered. We obviously drink our own champagne. They use Revy AI. It's a conversational way of engaging with your Sixth Sense data and combining it with your third-party data and your first-party data. I was a BDR when I started my career, and what used to take me 6-7 hours is taking them 15 minutes. So it's meaning that they're going from needing to do grunt work for multiple years to prove themselves and to learn the skills to developing so much faster. And on the customer side of things, having actually valuable conversations with really senior leaders in our customer accounts and our prospect accounts because they're better informed.
I love that. And I love the passion behind the question as well. So I was given a 5 minute to go here. So I'm going to ask two last questions. One, it's about AI and ROI. Okay. $1 million question here. So, and that's open to all of you. So connecting AI to ROI is literally the $1 million question that all CMOs are trying to answer. So walk us through what's a real example of where you could measure the ROI, of an AI implementation, and what actually makes it measurable.
You could just take out AI and anything with the last statement there. It feels like the last 20, 25 years as well.
Yeah.
I think what I would just say in answering that question specifically is CMOs are always trying to drive more outcomes in a pressured environment. And it doesn't matter what tech comes, what tools come. There's always going to have to be a balance of investment in the tool versus ROI in what you're getting. I think from a marketing lens perspective, it's the same thing. All investment has to be measured. You just have to maybe decide what are you going to measure it against. So what is your definition of ROI? And is it fundamentally different with AI than it is with your other tools? Taking a performance lens to AI may or may not be the right thing for you and your brand.
Love that. Anybody else?
I think the question's interesting, but I still think I would start with what you're trying to achieve for your customers or your business, and then great. If AI helps you back into that, that's awesome. You're still going to be measuring whether it's qualitative or quantitative, saving money, saving time, customer experience, prospect experience, however you want to gather and measure that feedback. But I think if the question is framed of like, what can AI do versus what are we trying to achieve? And then what tools and processes and people are going to get us there? That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is like I would be a little careful trying to measure short-term ROI because the technology is so novel.
Yeah.
And if I ask AI to write me an email, like I'm just like fighting with Claude and it keeps being like great feedback. I'm like, it's not great feedback. Like, give me a better email. You know, it's like it turns into this whole process and I could just write the email. So right now it's this period of trying to like adopt novel technology and it's going to be messy. And it's actually, there's a good chance it slows teams down in the short term before they get really comfortable with it. So if your bet as an organization, it would be insane to not make this bet. But if your bet is that AI is going to be the future, then like it's almost like you make the sacrifice in the short term. You don't become overly obsessed with numbers and figures. You develop expertise. You develop a POV on the market. You build towards that. Measurement's obviously always critical and important, but like give yourself space to be messy with it is what I would say. Yeah.
And be genuine, be your brand, right? And so if AI is not your brand, right, or it outs you in ways that looks like it's like disingenuous and it's not authentically you, don't do it.
Right.
Because in the end, you're trying to influence outcomes to people. And if everybody knows that, you know, you're talking about a subject, then all of a sudden you see ads on your phone or in your feed, right? And you're like, are they listening? And they swear they're not.
They swear.
They swear they're not. But somehow, right? You don't want to be the brand so use it authentically, and then it'll drive what you want it to drive.
I love that. So my last question, let's predict the future. Okay, crystal ball. If you could design the future of AI in marketing where human creativity and business results coexist without the ethical compromises, what's the one thing that would need to change about how the industry operates today? Tough one. It's a closer, go big or go home.
All right. How about I just give you like a hot take on AI? Super hot?
Let's do it.
Okay. Here's
controversial will be great.
Well, I had this really interesting conversation today about AI, and there's this future-looking view of the space where, so in today's market, obviously, walled gardens occupy a huge percentage of digital ad spend, right? And so like the partnership between ad agencies and walled gardens is extremely intimate. Even though it's like fraught in a lot of ways, it's very intimate. I think there's a very realistic chance, and this I think dovetails with a lot of what we've been talking about, that walled gardens, like a company like Facebook, begins to build its own agency capabilities using AI. A lot of creative capabilities, a lot of planning capabilities, and its need for agencies starts to decrease, and it's just builds this like enormous, effectively AI-generated agency business. And in that world, like what happens is theoretically ad agencies start to deploy more of their dollars back out into the open internet. And so there's this actually very optimistic view of the future where AI and its implications for walled gardens is this boon for premium publishers and the open internet in general, which is the counterpoint to generally what we're seeing. So I think like, what I would say generally, like through a few different themes that we've touched on here, is there's this scary narrative that like the machines will take over, nobody's gonna have a job, like you're just gonna be marketed to by like robots and it's gonna be horrible. But I think there's a very optimistic scenario where innovation is thriving, the open internet is thriving, and ad dollars are making their way to real audiences. And so that's sort of what I see in a lot of ways.
I'm with him. So I think I'm definitely an AI optimist. I've heard a couple of conversations today where people are definitely the opposite. It's destroying creativity. It's doing all these things. We need to see it as the thing that it is right now, which is a tool, right? And as you said, you could write the email faster than you could potentially get a good response out of these things. There are places where it definitely works. As we look in the future, there's those simple, mundane things that people do all the time that it automates and gets out of your way. There's a guarantee that's happening. The workflows get optimized, things get faster and smoother. The media that you're buying and the performance of that media goes up. Your campaigns get better. You deliver better leads, better MQL to SQL. Those things start to happen naturally in the future. But this idea that it's going to take over and we need to be scared of it, I think we have to get past that narrative. Get marketers to embrace it, figure out how it works within their tool set, and just it's another application in their life to do better work in the end. And I think that goes all the way to the creatives. Like before Photoshop, right, there was another way to build creative. Then Photoshop launched, that got better.
And here we are.
It keeps iterating, right? So it's just another in there.
Yeah, I think it's almost like going back and asking, like, what's the difference between the internet and the human work, right? They're so blended now. And so I would categorize myself as an AI optimist. I think it helps us to achieve an awful lot of the outcomes that we're chasing. But for me, there's at least three important things where you just can't replace the human. One is relationships. Yes, it can assist you in building those relationships, identifying people, coming up with relevant topics. B2B is still business to human at the end of the day. It's just multiple humans. Taste. There's no accounting for taste, right? And AI can deliver you a lot of options. But at the end of the day, I think we're always going to want that person who knows the moment, knows the market, knows their company to represent that. And accountability. I don't think it's ever going to fly if we were to launch something that didn't make sense. I don't think the answer of like, oh, AI suggested it So I think that's really important too.
My hot take would be AI is only going to be as good as the inputs, right? And so it doesn't matter whether it's your thinking as the input or pulling data. If that data isn't organized in a clean way, it's not going to give you the right answers. If you don't have critical thinking back into Claude or whatever you end up using, it's not going to give you the right answers. And that stuff becomes really transparent really fast. And again, I think that the transparent, like, you have to be authentically your brand. You have to show up in the right way. And you're not going to be able to, AI is not going to be able to replace a human lens on that.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much.